When the master runs into difficulties, she stops and gives herself to them. 2 years ago, I would be sitting in my room, meditating, wondering why I felt so much discomfort, so much pain, so much tension in my gut, so much tightness in my heart, so much tension in my jaw, having involuntary movements, all sorts of crazy stuff happening, when I was meant to be feeling more peace by resting as awareness, or doing Vipassana relentlessly in my room. Why was I feeling so much pain? And 6 months ago, I was able to go to an airport when I had never flown overseas, and was able to be in this place where I was really on the precipice of believing my narratives, or going into that unknown space and engaging in the world. And that capacity, that real shift, didn't happen sitting in the cave. It happened being out in the world and being on the edge of my comfort zone, on my true edge of my comfort zone, and walking through that airport, leaving behind me like everything that I had. So I had my little black bag with me and pretty much 7 kilos of luggage. That's all I had to travel around Asia. And leaving that airport, leaving the familiar place, felt like, man, it felt like I was being stripped out from my heart, like from the middle of my heart was just being pulled out of me. And there were all these doubts, like, you're not going to be able to handle it. You're not ready for this. You're going to be going into Thailand. Like, there's language barriers. There's all sorts of difficult things that you're going to encounter. And that capacity, that rather than just sitting in the cave of my house 2 years ago and resting as awareness, something shifted there that allowed me to, in that space, still feel the intensity of this discomfort and walk through the airport, walk down that escalator. I remember it very clearly, walking down the escalator step by step, and then just feeling the gravity that I'm going to be overseas for the first time all by myself, feeling the weight of that, feeling my body flare up, walking through customs and security. And man, I can even feel it a little bit now, just like compassion and almost like a sadness of what that felt like. But walking through security and being like, yeah, okay, I've got to go here. I've never been through security. Are they going to pull me up on something? So my mind was in this very like on edge place. And then, yeah, eventually walking through and getting on the plane for the first time, sitting in the chair and just being like, wow, I'm doing this. Like, this is happening. There's sort of a thrill to that, and a fear, and everything in between. And that ended up being the initiation of like quite the journey through all of Asia, where I was constantly in the unknown, traveling through Thailand, Vietnam, Nepal, India, back to India again for a second time, and then Sri Lanka now. And I've been traveling for 6 months, but I've learned a hell of a lot in that period about bringing the Dharma into daily life. So the reason I tell that is not to bloat my own ego, but to let that part of me know 2 years ago that it's okay to come out of the cave, and you do have capacity. You do have the capacity and the strength. So if you're in that situation where you're feeling a lot of trauma and pain in your body, doing non-dual practices, you might be out in the world, you might be going to work, you might be engaging in life, and yet there's still so much pain in the body. How do you go beyond that? Like, how do you have the resilience to still feel that and to really meet it in a way that deepens insight, but also transmutes this pain? Because the answer, I found out, is not in just resting as awareness. That's not enough. That is important, and we should continue to expand our capacity to rest as awareness, to connect to spaciousness in our experience, to relax in our source, Because when we do that, our capacity to rest and be in spaciousness is a direct correlation to our ability to handle chaos, to handle disorder, to take in more data, to be able to feel with more depth, to integrate more fully. So it's a very important and forms the backbone of this work, is to remember who we are, our true self, to use self-inquiry. So it's not a bad thing that Sam was sitting in his room meditating 2 years ago, and it's not a bad thing if you're doing that. You're building your capacity for spaciousness, but there comes a point when we need to engage with courage. And what shifted for me from being in my cave 2 years ago and to being able to travel was, and be in the unknown and to engage with courage, was my capacity to feel fully and wholeheartedly the sensations in my body that are saying, no, you can't do it the most. And this took insight to a degree. This took a willingness to be able to de-identify from thoughts. This took the training of my mind in silence to be able to see when thoughts would arise. You can't handle this. You're not going to be able to do it. This is too much. This sensation's too much. To be able to notice those thoughts and to be able to de-identify from them and to return my attention back to source was a real skill that was developed. But because the pain body was so activated, there was so much like painful emotion and experience. What I wish non-dual teachers would have told me more readily, because I had this idea that, they had it all figured out, which is complete BS, because, if we look at authentic teachers, I believe to be authentic teachers, like Jeff Foster, who had the capacity and ability to hang out with a lot of these non-dual teachers who parade this image of perfection. Just rest as awareness, bro. Everything will be taken care of. Don't worry about emotions. Don't worry about the shadow. And Jeff Foster hangs out with these people and he sees that over and over again, that they have, just like everyone else, dysfunctional relationships, unhealed traumas. And some would overcompensate and act like nothing's wrong, like they don't experience any difficulties. So when I began to soften that view, when we can begin to soften the view that we're human, we're just human beings, and we admit with humility where our edges are, where we're at currently, that's when true transformation can take place. So, my willingness to feel, and I believe this to be true, I believe that your willingness to feel wholeheartedly your sensations in your body, not to distract yourself from them and not to buy into the narratives that they're telling you, but your willingness to feel wholeheartedly these uncomfortable sensations is directly correlated with your capacity to have courage, compassion, and to have what it takes to have a radical transformation in your psyche that you're yearning for to engage with the world through spiritual practice. Your capacity to feel your emotions wholeheartedly is a direct correlate to courage, compassion, and the juice needed for radical transformation of your psyche. So I believe that is what is required for us to have a connection to spaciousness, to continue to deepen in that, to continue to do self-inquiry. Who am I? Broaden out our awareness. But also, which is what I wish non-dual teachers would have told me, is to be able to feel the emotions, especially of those of us who are struggling with trauma. That you're connecting to, I want to let you know that connecting to the sensations in your body is okay. It's going to serve you and deepen an insight. So, to do that, let's actually do a guided practice right now. Rather than talking about it, let's feel this indirect experience. So just feel the weight of your body right now, sinking into the chair. Or if you're standing, doing cooking or something while listening to this video, Feel your feet on the ground. Just pause for one moment. Breathe into your abdomen. Deep breath into your abdomen. As deep as you can. If it's tight, if it's contracted, just gently allow that, and then see how much breath you can allow to enter your abdomen. And then exhale down into the ground. Feeling your feet, feeling your legs, feeling your glutes resting against the chair with each inhale into your abdomen. Exhaling back down into the chair and feeling the weight of your body. So see if you can notice in your body if there's any areas of spaciousness. See if there's any pleasant sensations. If you have trauma, it might not feel like you have a lot of space. It might not feel like you have any pleasant sensations. Pay close attention. See if you can find just the tiniest slither of pleasant sensation. Could be as small as a tingle in your pinky toe. Now, pendulate or move. It's a fancy way of saying move your attention to something that feels unpleasant, that feels most prominently unpleasant in your experience. And just allow it. No need to change it, no need to do anything with it. See how deeply you can feel that sensation. See if you can stay in it for just that little bit longer. Notice if there's any thoughts that say, I can't handle this. Feel them. Feel where it feels like to be in a space of I can't handle this in your body. And bring your attention right back to where it's saying no the loudest in your experience. Now, it's very valuable at this point, once you've allowed that no, see if you can allow your attention to dilate outwardly. You might even ask a question, like a self-inquiry question of who am I? Who is experiencing these sensations right now? Who is the one that is even aware of these sensations, looking in direct experience to see if you can find that person? So it's like a relaxing back into your source of who you are. Your capacity to be and feel spaciousness, to relax into your most natural way of being by using an inquiry question like, who am I? The capacity to know spaciousness is a direct correlation to your capacity to heal and integrate and deal with chaos in your daily life. The more that you can stay and rest with spaciousness, the greater your capacity will be. So allow your attention to go there. This is where Sam would have appreciated more guidance for his trauma that he was experiencing 2 years ago. So while being connected to that spaciousness, allow your attention to simultaneously, just very gently, while staying connected to the spaciousness, allow it to move into the sensation in your body. So your attention is wide, but it's also focusing in on sensation. What's saying no the loudest? See if you can feel into even subtler layers of where it's saying no. Maybe there's a numbness that's revealing itself just ever so slightly more and more in your gut, for example. So attention's wide, you're feeling. See if you can continue to feel. At this place, we can also invite compassion. What would it feel like to grandfather or grandmother this sensation, calling upon the wisdom of a compassionate, wise elder to be with this sensation? Stay with it, let the body move if it needs to, let the body cry. Sometimes these numb emotions transmute into raw emotion, such as sadness, the more that they unfreeze with your loving attention. So this is where we can really get lost if we're not careful, if we're not attuning, if we're not embodied. Embodied meaning feeling our body deeply. We can, if we took this practice out into daily life, this is where we'll have thoughts like, yeah, I can be with this in a meditation sitting, but when I go out into the workplace, I regularly get triggered and I won't be able to do this practice. That is the exact opportunity to do that practice. For Sam at the airport 6 months ago, when I was walking through the airport, that was the opportunity to do the practice. To really be on the edge of what is comfortable, with humility to know my edge and to seek support where I need it, but also to have the courage to feel deeply. Another time we might face doubts are in conversation with others, where there are social complicity structures, agreed upon social agreements between people that we need to distract and avoid and hide from the uncomfortable sensations. So when we go against the grain by slowing down and feeling our numbness, our tightness that we're feeling in the collective unconscious, when we feel it fully with spaciousness, with acceptance, with compassion, people dial into that. People understand that we're feeling them in that way. And there might be temptation to not trust. There might be temptation to overcompensate and buy into the social agreements. Keep feeling. Keep accessing your authenticity. Keep accessing the courage to remain in these sensations. Don't believe the doubts and all the other subtle thoughts that I talked about in a previous video, the anatomy of thought, that will rope you back in to keep that trauma pattern alive, to keep mind identification going. Feel deeply, feel thoroughly, feel all the way. With humility, grace, compassion, and courage. This is the key to building a resilient nervous system. By showing yourself over and over again that you do have the capacity. You do have the capacity to feel all the way. You do have the capacity to overcome the momentum of these painful experiences and traumas that have stored themselves deep in the collective unconscious and in your body. And by doing this and attuning this way, you will begin to heal, not just yourself, but those around you as well. Because they will feel the resonance and the realness of what you're dropping into. People might resist, but you're not looking for those validation comments, because your zeal and authenticity and your drive for authenticity supersedes that of needing validation from others. Your love for authenticity supersedes the need from validation of others for validation. Bring this out into daily life. This is not just a guided meditation, this is a practice for daily life, to engage moment by moment. I wish non-dual teachers would have told me this. I wish I would have heard this 2 years ago when I was sitting in my room, and I'm glad I incorporated it into my practice when I went traveling. And since then, it's been profoundly useful to continue in this way. Keep going, and a lot of love to you.